Do you ever feel like your circle of friends just keeps getting smaller and smaller? Like you're wondering if you're the only person who really cares about planning things. Maybe you're somebody who doesn't exactly enjoy putting yourself out there. Nonetheless, you wish that people would invite you to do things. Like you really enjoyed that time when it seemed like you had more friends, and now it feels like friends are hard to find, especially in this stage of your life. Does it seem like everybody's too busy and too distant, sometimes including yourself? Maybe you'd love to have some people you could connect with, that you vibe with, you like who they are, you want to hang out with them, you can go deep with them. But at the same time, you're wondering, do I even have the time or the energy? Maybe you've even wondered if you're just at a stage in your life where you don't need as many friends. Or maybe you just moved to a new area and you realize, I don't have any friends, and I don't know if I know how to make friends at this age. Perfect. You are in luck, because in this episode of The Chalene Show, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why, first of all, it's so important that we do have friends, and how to actually go about making friends in this season without giving you the typical super cheesy, like nobody does that and there's no way I'm going to do it kind of strategies. I'm going to give you things that like legitimately work, because you actually do need those connections. All right, let's get to it. I don't know about you, but I feel like COVID had a lot to do with the way that I viewed friendships and even the way I wanted to socialize. During COVID, I remember thinking like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I don't have to go out. I don't have to go to parties. I don't have to socialize. I don't need new friends. I lived in Southern California. My very best friend in the world lived 2 miles away. And I didn't need to see her much, but it was reassuring to know that she was that close. Loved her kids, loved spending time with her. Nobody gets me the way she gets. Nobody makes me laugh the way she makes me laugh. But honestly, even though we live very close, most of our relationship was texting or on the phone. So COVID wasn't that big of a deal. And I remember thinking during COVID, like, maybe I'm actually far less social than I thought I was, because I freaking love this. Okay, hear me out. Like, don't get this twisted, but like there was a part of me that loved that I didn't have to interact with people. I loved that. And when things started opening back up again, I'd already told myself a story. Well, I just don't want new friends, and I don't like being social. And apparently I struggle with social anxiety, and maybe I'm way more of an introvert than I realized. And maybe it is this season of my life. And I kind of enjoyed that. And that was a story I told myself. Then we moved to Miami Beach, from Southern California to Miami Beach. And it was then that I realized, which was kind of interesting, even my best friend, we're still texting and things like that, but it's not in my back pocket that if I need her, she's there in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And I didn't have any, because I was in a new city. There was nobody I knew who I could go through the drive-through at Starbucks or get a workout with them and sit in the car for 10 minutes after the workout, just peeing our pants laughing, and I kind of missed that. I missed that a lot. And I kept telling myself the story that I'm just don't know how to make friends, and maybe I'm intimidating. Like I had all these things I told myself, and maybe most people, the kind of people that I vibe with, maybe they're just not out there, and maybe this is all normal and it's okay. But I started, studying health and understanding what are the true measures of health. And when it comes to longevity, one of the most significant factors in how long people live is their happiness. And I don't think it's probably any surprise for you to find out that the thing that makes people happy, it's not money. It's not cars. It's not the house you live in. It's not the clothes that you're wearing. I mean, sure, those things are temporarily, they can make us happy. But think about the last time you were in a major conflict with someone you love, whether it was like a close family member or a close friend. It's so hard to concentrate on anything. Nothing else matters. When you have conflict with someone you care about, you can't be happy. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how successful you've been in your career. You just don't feel happy. Our friends and our connections are the key to happiness. And if you really think about it, what do we want? We want to live happily. We want to live with longevity. We want to be powerful as we age. But really, we want to be happy. And in order to do that, we need friends. The other reason why it's so important in this season is because, I mean, let's face it, most of us are you're in the second half or maybe even the second quarter of your life, which means people, it's just human, like it's biology. People are dying, people leave, people move, relationships change. But you can't be an island. It doesn't work that way. Islands are beautiful until there's a disaster. And then when there's a disaster, you need help. And life is so much easier when you have people that you, first of all, you vibe with, and they just get you. You don't have to explain yourself. They understand your jokes. You don't have to say, well, that's not what I mean. You don't have to worry what they think about you. Like is there anything freaking better than hanging out with people who, they just get you. They get your sense of humor. They understand they understand your quirks. They like your quirks. The things that other people find annoying about you, they think are adorable or super funny or endearing, and they appreciate those things. And that's a pretty rare thing to have, but it's important. So first, I want you to know that in this season of your life, for women who are midlife, it is very normal to struggle with friendships. And here's why, especially for those of us who had kids. When your kids were little, your friends are kind of built in. Like I think about the people who I did so much with, who I kind of thought they were going to be friends forever. But now I realize it was really more like they were friends because it was convenient. They were friends because our kids played on the same team, or our kids were in the same classroom, or we lived in the same neighborhood. So number one, that changes. Number two, I think as we get older, we start to realize, you know what? I really don't have quite as much patience for BS as I thought I did. And aligning ourselves with people whose values kind of match ours, we just realize like there's not an infinite amount of time. And so I've got to figure out how I'm going to spend time with people who make me feel elevated. And we become more discerning about the people that we want to hang out with. You also, like, there's so many changes. You are oftentimes, you'll find women in our age group are what they call the sandwich generation, which means you're probably taking care of, or at least contributing in some way to the care and the concern and the worry of your own parents. Our generation, our kids stay home much longer. It takes them a lot longer to launch, as they say, like to be fully self-sufficient. And so for a lot of us, that means you end up taking care of your kids a lot longer, and sometimes your kids' kids. So there's hardly any time left for your friends and for the things that are just like fun. I think we also start to realize that there were people who were in our lives who were like what I call like good time friends. Like you still love them, you still adore them, but there's no way you're calling them if there's truly an emergency or you have a health scare. And I think that really just aligning like what's important to me in this stage of my life. And then let's talk about like finances, right? Like at this stage, some of your friends may still be working, and then others might be retired, or some might be working for a corporation, and others have pursued entrepreneurship. And so they have more freedom and more money. And these things create a separation that wasn't there when we were in our 30s and 40s. So I just want you to know it's very normal. In fact, research from the U.S. Surgeon General from 2023, an advisory on the epidemic of loneliness and isolation, found that back in 1990, the rate of people who like hung out and socialized with their neighbors was really high. Almost 50% of people said that they regularly socialized with their neighbors. Today, it's less than 30. In fact, it's less than 28%. And I dare say that in certain areas, in certain cities, it's even lower than that. Like people in the Midwest are so nice and so friendly, and they know their neighbors. When I lived in California, I knew one neighbor on our entire street. We moved to Miami, same thing. Spoiler alert, I have since made friends here in Miami. I'm going to share with you some of the ways that I've done that. And I'm going to give you other strategies that you can try too. And these things really work. But I think I met one neighbor, and not until we'd lived there for almost 9 months. I think people we're so accustomed. We like drive into our driveways, we park in the garage, we bring the garage door down, and then we, go inside the house and we get on our phones. And that's where we're connecting with people. People just don't sit in their driveways and set up lawn chairs and chat anymore. And maybe you've just been burned. Like there's somebody who you really thought was a great friend, and you've had an experience with them that left you feeling pretty hurt. And because of that, like, you remember that and you're like, is it really even worth putting myself out there again? And that's real. I want you to know, like, that is real pain. In fact, a study from 2018 published in the Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience Journal found that social rejection affects the brain in the same way physical pain does. It's literally painful when someone you cared about and you thought they cared about you does something that's really hurtful. And it's even worse when you don't even know why. You don't have an explanation, or you're lacking that closure. And then lastly, something we talk a lot about on the Chalene Show is hormones. And let's face it, your hormones make you you. And it's so funny. Like, we recognize that when a woman has a baby, that she is often not herself after she has that child. And we accept postpartum depression changes the way a person responds, changes the way a person thinks. It changes your mood. But you need to understand that transition, perimenopause and that transition into menopause, dude, that is going to throw you for a loop when it comes to your mood. And you're going to think it's you. And sometimes you have less patience for people than you normally would, or you don't respond the way that you normally would handle something. And that's not that your personality has changed. It's that your hormones have changed. So I just, I say this in so many episodes. So I just want to remind you that if you have caught yourself thinking several times in the last couple of years, or maybe even last month, whatever, this is not me. This is not how I would normally respond. Like, why is this upsetting me? Why am I having a mini breakdown? Why does this make me want to cry? And I normally, I wouldn't care. If you've had those thoughts, check your hormones. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, when those things are out of whack, they're out of balance, so too is the way you think. I mean, our hormones affect our brain more. And we always talk about weight, we talk about hot flashes, but your hormones affect the way you think. They affect your cognition. And I experienced this myself recently when we were living in a home that was infested with mold, and I didn't know it. I just felt like, what is going on with my brain? Like, why do I feel so different? Like, why is all of this, why does this feel overwhelming? Why do I feel like crying? Why do I feel like biting somebody's head off? And why don't I have any patience today? And it just was happening too often. And it wasn't until I got that mold toxicity test back and then followed up with a hormone test that my hormones were completely in the tank. So it was the mold that affected my hormones. And this happens to women when they're in perimenopause. And it happens to women who've not considered hormone replacement therapy. So this is not an episode about hormones. I've done a ton of episodes about hormones. Check those out. We will link them below in our show notes. But I want to say this. You are never too old to have your hormones checked. I don't care if you're in your 60s or 70s, and you are never too young. Well, I guess you could be too young. But if you're over 35 and you're experiencing these things, talk to your doctor. Talk to a doctor. Sorry, don't just talk to any doctor. Talk to a doctor who actually understands, a clinician who actually understands women's hormonal health. There's one thing we know for sure. All of us are going to go through some stuff. I'll keep it PG. It's inevitable. You are going to have hardship. That's life. Things are going to happen that you were not anticipating that throw you for a loop. And some of those things are really hard and really unexpected. And I don't care how strong you are, it's much harder to go through those things by yourself. And maybe you have a significant other, you've got a partner who you can rely on, but what if something happens to them? What if something unexpected happens to your relationship that you could have never anticipated? You need a circle of friends around you. And the way that we know that we can count on those people and the way that we feel like more comfortable calling on them is if that well is already full before we're thirsty. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we've all had that experience where you're like, this is weird. I'm getting a phone call from so-and-so. I haven't heard from them in forever. And you just know that they want something. That's the worst. The best is when you have a circle of people around you who know you and care for you, and you don't even have to call them. They already show up before you've even told them that you need some help, you need some support. And the way that happens is by prioritizing pouring into those people. And it's important, and here's why. Research from 2023 that was published in the Journal of Gerontology found that a strong social tie cuts your risk of depression by 60%. I mean, I don't know if there's a drug that's that effective. Literally, having strong social connections, in other words, like having friends, decreases depression by 60%. And there's so many studies. I mean, do we really even need a study to recognize the fact that when you're going through something and you can connect with somebody else who's gone through something similar, your connection with that person deepens. And the reason why I want to mention that is because later when I start giving you some strategies of like ways to connect with people, if you're going through something right now, really intense, like grief, like the loss of a child, the loss of the love of your life, your partner, even if you have a really great group of girls around you who support you, if none of them have been through that, you can still feel very, very alone. It's really important in those times, whether it's like, maybe it's a divorce that you're going through, or, I mean, there's so many things I can think of that are unique and we're afraid to reach out to our friends about it. Like maybe it's a suicide or just a very specific thing in your family, like someone has Alzheimer's and none of your girlfriends can truly understand. Like they can be there for you, but they don't truly understand what it is you're going through. It's really important that you seek out people, a group, whether it's a community online. I think that's one of the best ways, one of the easiest ways to do it, to find communities that resonate with you. And because of like social media and Facebook and Instagram and even Reddit, there's so many forums now where there's literally hundreds and hundreds of forums for this like very specific type of trauma that you may be experiencing. Like a girlfriend of mine lost both her sister and her husband, my girlfriend, Mindy Lawhorn, within a very short period of time. And I remember her saying that the very first group that she joined of widows, she was like, these aren't my people. Yeah, we've been through similar traumas, but these are not my people. They are downers. They're a lot older and they're living in this sadness. These are not my people. And so she created her own community. And sometimes that's what you have to do. But just know this, that there's so many communities out there. And even if you've never, just reading other people's stories and what they're going through, and maybe someone who's at a stage further along than you, those are some great connections. This is really important for me to talk to you about this because I talk about health on my show all the time. I talk about strength training. I talk about doing zone 2 cardio and get your hormones right and make sure you're working on your mobility. And, we talk about living powerfully. But did you know that the absolute most important factor when it comes to your longevity, it's none of those things. It's not the food you eat. It's not the number of reps you're doing at the gym. It's connections. And we know this from one of the longest recorded studies in history. It was started in 1938 by Harvard. It was called the Harvard Study of Adult Development. And they started with, I think it was like 200 students, sophomore students at Harvard. And they began tracking their happiness and their health as it related to their friendships and connections. And the study continues today. To date, they have over 1,300 of those original participants' descendants. Like they have followed these people's lives and their happiness and their health for multiple generations. And what they found is that the quality of friendships and social connections contributed more to their health and their happiness and their mental well-being than any other factor. We don't talk about it. Why? That's so weird. Like that is the thing that makes us live the longest and the happiest is connections. We don't talk about it and we don't teach it. And I'm like, why? Why is that? I guess because maybe there's no way for people to monetize it. I don't know. But I want to talk about it and I want to talk about how we can get better at this because it's really important. Your brain, your body, your happiness is all dependent upon your connections. So whatever story it is, whatever negative story you've been telling yourself about friendship, I need that story to change. So the first step is to just identify, what story do you tell yourself when it comes to your friends? And some of you are going to comment, on YouTube below this video. By the way, if you don't already know this, the episode, I release the audio on whatever podcast app you listen to. I always release that on Fridays. And then on Sunday, you can check out the video. By the way, if we're going to be friends, there's one thing you're going to need to do. Make sure you're subscribed. I mean, come on. I need to know that you are like a caring, kind person with good manners, and you think of others, and you understand that, like, I put a lot of time and effort into these episodes, and it takes a long time to get this much hair and makeup in place. And so I just need to know that you're going to be that kind of friend, that you're going to at least subscribe. So make sure you subscribe. And while you're at it, double check and make sure that you've turned on your notifications. And while you're at it, leave a comment below in the comment section on YouTube and let me know that today was the day you subscribed and that we're going to be best friends. All right, back to the show. But I want to talk to you about like how you go about doing this. Like, what are the actual steps of making friends? And the first step is recognizing the story that you tell yourself. And there's going to be people who comment below this. I already know. I'm going to beat you to it. You're going to say things like, I try to making friends. I just can't make friends. That's a story. You're going to say, there aren't any people around me who I connect with. That's a story. I make friends all the time and then they hurt me and they burn me. That's a story. And I'm not saying these stories are false, but if you believe something, that's what you're going to continue to find. Facts. Like, what we look for is what we find, right? So start looking for people you vibe with and start telling yourself a different story. When I moved to Miami, I believed those things were true of me. Like, I don't really need friends. I'm super awkward in social settings. I don't like to go to parties. I don't want the invitation. I don't want to have to do no. I used to say, in the words of Drake, no new friends, no new friends, no new friends. But then when I got here to Miami, I'm like, but I'm missing fun. I want to go work out with somebody. I want to laugh. I want to enjoy myself. I want to go out with the girls and talk about things like, I mean, I love my husband. There's some things I really want to just talk to the girls about. And so I had to change the way I saw myself as it related to making friends. And here's the first tip I have for you. Making friends in this stage is awkward. It just is. So name it. Say it's awkward. Like, there was a gal I kept seeing at the gym for months. And I'm like, I noticed her because she's like my age, and the gym that I work with, they're all like 20 and 30 something, really cute social media influencers, I swear. And I'm like the oldest one, even though I think I'm their age. But so when I saw a woman who's like about my age, about my height, also, hitting the weights heavy, like she's not messing around the gym. She caught my attention probably like 6 months ago. And every time I saw her, I thought, I bet we could be friends. I don't know why. Like, sometimes you just look at somebody, you're like, I bet we could be friends. And so there was just one day as I'm walking into the bathroom at the gym and she's walking out, and I'd already told myself the next time I see her, I'm just going to introduce myself. And that's what I did. And what did I say? Like, because you want the words, right? Because you hear these tips like, just introduce yourself. But what do you say? Well, first of all, don't be afraid to use ChatGPT. Like, if you're trying to figure out, like, how do I literally say this? Use ChatGPT to give you, and ask ChatGPT for 20 different options. Describe the scenario. And so when I saw her walking out of the gym, I said, this is so awkward, but like, I don't know. I've been seeing you working out here for several months, and I just want to introduce myself. My name's Chalene. I just moved here like basically a year ago, and I just want to introduce myself. And she goes, yeah, this is awkward because I've been seeing you too, and I know who you are. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, it was just the right amount of awkwardness for both of us. And sometimes that's what you need. You just need someone to like call it what it is. Also, I think when we're talking about our circle of friends, it's also important to note that everyone kind of has a role. I remember feeling, I don't know, I guess sad, you could say, or bummed. I don't know, but the word is, thinking about how my circle of girlfriends used to be much bigger. Like, I had this group thread of like 10 or 12 of us girls, and we used to all vacation together, and we did so many fun things together, like in our 40s. And it was just amazing. And I just always pictured us doing those kinds of trips like into our 70s and 80s and supporting each other and, showing up for each other throughout the decades. But that circle has just gotten smaller and smaller. And not for any reason other than people's lives change a little bit and they shift. And what's important to them is no longer important to you or vice versa. And that's okay. It doesn't mean anything negative about you or them. People grow, people change. And the ones who are meant to be in your life sometimes take extra work. And we have to stop being resentful especially if you're the person who tends to be the organizer, or you're the person who tends to follow up with a text message. And I know who I'm talking to right now because I am her. I am the one who's going to organize the girls trip. I am the one who's going to remember the birthday. I am the one who's going to make the extra effort. And there was a period of time where I started becoming resentful of that, because the reason why I was resentful is because I thought it said that they didn't care about me as much as I care about them. But it's not true. The truth is, I'm just good at that, right? And maybe that's you. Maybe you're the one that's really good at organizing things. You're the one that's good at Somebody needs to be. Everyone can't be the same. One of my friends, Monica, her role in the group is to be freaking hysterical. She is the Chris Farley of our friend group. She's going to sacrifice her body to make the rest of us laugh. She's going to sacrifice her body and her reputation, because the way that she shows us joy is by making us die laughing at her expense. I can't be that. And I wonder, maybe she's resentful, why can't these girls be more fun? Why can't they be more out there and make me laugh as hard? We all have a different role. And that's okay. So it's respecting everyone for their role, but also recognizing that sometimes there are friends who they really don't contribute anything. And I don't think you have to break up with them. It's just to note, yeah, maybe there's not much I'm getting back from them. And so maybe I should use more of my energy and pour that into somebody else. Okay, so that's your current group of friends. I think one of the best places to start with is your acquaintances. So there's going out to meet brand new people they've never met before. But then there's also your acquaintances. And these are people who you've met maybe once or twice through another friend. And you thought to yourself, we could probably be friends, and you don't know yet, but you've got to put yourself out there and figure that out. And so that means inviting them to do something, typically in person, but it doesn't always have to be in person. Some of my closest friends I've met online. Perfect example of this is Natalie Jill. Natalie Jill and I met through Instagram, I think maybe 12 years ago. And we've been in person. This is weird. I think maybe 10 times over the last 10 years, but she's one of my closest friends. And I met her online. I recently got to meet Jen Reed and Alicia Erickson. And those are two women I have followed. They're just women I followed online, and we have similar life. We're in the same stages of our lives, and we have similar interests. And specifically, when I think about Alicia, when I started following her, we just have a lot in common. And I was inspired by her journey to quit drinking. And I connected with her over, just connecting over something that we had in common. And then to finally meet in person. And now we're just connected by phone. And so these connections, they don't always have to be in person. I do think it's valuable to have friends in person. And we're going to talk about that. But I also know that you might be watching this from a very rural area and you just don't have as many women in your community with similar interests. So start online and recognize that, yeah, it might not be reciprocated. They might not pick up what you're putting down, but that's okay because there's millions and millions of people online. Don't take it so personal. Don't be such a baby. Don't be such a wah-wah. Get over it. Move on. Move on to the next person. If you take this stuff so seriously, come on, really, you can't. Just move on. Move on to the next person. You will find your people. It will be meant to be when you connect with them. Now, if we're talking about meeting people in person, I love for you to start with in-person connections. So you've got a friend, maybe it's not a best friend, but you've got someone who introduced you to somebody else. Invite them to go do something. And yeah, say, I know this is weird. Maybe this is weird. I don't know if you're busy, but how much would you love it if someone did this for you? If someone said, I know this is kind of weird, but I really vibed with you. I loved your energy when we met. Would you be interested? Would you want to go get coffee, or would you want to go to dinner, or do you want to go for a walk? I love doing walks. So here's why I love asking a new friend to do a zone 2 walk with you. Okay. Sitting across from a stranger is so awkward. It's just awkward. It's weird. Like they're staring at you, you're staring at them. It's like, are we dating? It's weird. When you're walking, you don't have to like make direct eye contact. I mean, you can, but it's different. It's much more comfortable and you're getting something else done at the same time. I have found that people go much deeper when they're moving versus like sitting across the table making small talk. It's one of the best ways to get to know someone. A perfect example. My girlfriend, April, introduced me to her girlfriend, Brooke Castillo. And I really liked Brooke. I didn't know I would really like Brooke. But once I met her, I'm like, oh, I think I could really vibe with her. So I knew she had moved to Miami at the time. And so I did. I texted her. I'm like, hey, you want to go for a walk? She's like, sure. I mean, on that walk, we talked about our kids. We talked about struggle. It was our first time we'd ever been together, just the two of us. And I went deeper with her on that walk than some friends that I've had for like 10 years that it's just kind of surface level. You know what I mean? So there's something about getting exercise, specifically walking. You can't do it when you're in a yoga class, you're going to disturb everybody, but it really does allow you to make that deeper connection. My girlfriend, Natalie Jill, she moved from Southern California. She's so social. She makes friends so easily. But most of her friends, she realized, were all in Southern California and she had known them for decades. So she moved to Arizona. And when she moved there, she's like, I don't know a soul. So she made a Facebook post in a local community group. And I know you're thinking, well, of course, people want to be friends with her. She's got a big following. No, this is like, she went into a private community group and was like, I just moved here. Here's what I'm into. I like fitness and exercise. I am married. I have a dog. Here are the things I like to do. Here are the kinds of people that I really vibe with and connect with. Here's the type of women that I would love to meet. And I would love to meet those of you who are maybe entrepreneurs. And I'm planning a hike. So if any of you want to go, look, basically a walk. If any of you would be interested locally, meet me here. And she had like 12 women show up. And 2 of those women she's still very, very close with. You might have to be the organizer. My friend Kenya Kelly, when she moved to Houston, now I hope I don't get the story wrong, but the first time she lived in Houston, she went online and basically did the same thing that Natalie did, said, you know, I don't know anyone. I'm looking for other women who would be interested in just, you know, getting to know each other and hanging out. And she did this meetup at a restaurant and like, I think she said 2 other people showed up. 10 years later, she moves back to Houston. Now, for some people, you might have felt like that was a failure, right? Like, or maybe no one showed up. So she goes back to Houston 10 years later, does the same thing. This time she posts to TikTok and to Instagram. Hundreds and hundreds of people showed up. Now she's taking this idea and helping other people do it in their cities. So yeah, it does require putting yourself out there and it does require a skill. It's a skill. Making friends is a skill. So a couple things I want you to remember when you're making friends. The way to be really interesting is to be interested. Like, you're just not that interesting if all you want to do is talk about yourself. Nobody needs your resume. No one is going to be impressed by all the things you've done and all the people you know and all the things, you know. I met this woman recently at a dinner party. I sat next to her and I thought, we're the same age and about the same age, and we should probably have a lot in common. I have no idea or she has no idea, I should say, because she did not ask me even one question, not one. I sat next to her for an hour and a half. I know everything about her. Specifically, I know everything about like all the homes that she's lived in, all the cars that she's owned, all the places she's traveled. I'm like, it didn't impress me. It just made me feel like this would be a very kind of self-centered friend. And I bet she's not that way, but it's how she came across. And I think we do that when we're trying to impress other people. But honestly, the way to be a great friend from the jump is to be interested enough and to ask questions. How many friends do you need for that happiness? Not a lot. The more the merrier. But I also think there's a point at which you have too many friends and you really can't pour into any of them. You can't really, I would rather you go deep than wide, if that makes sense. 2 or 3 is huge, right? Because even if your family is who you rely on for those connections, family is, sometimes family isn't family. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes family doesn't show up for you the way your friends can. Sometimes family are the people who we choose to be family. So I just want to encourage you to change your story around friendships and to know that it's really freaking important. If health is something you're focused on, if you want to age powerfully, if you want to just be happy, if you want to feel better mentally and physically, you need to focus on deepening your friendships and having better connections. Hey, thanks for joining me. Drop your suggestions for me below. Not just for me, for everybody. So if there's been something that worked really well for you, a way that you've been able to make new friends in this season of your life, let us know below wherever it is you listen to The Chalene Show. And I'll catch you in the next episode.